My name is Amos Tudiatemba. I am a lecturer at the Victoria University, and I do teach mathematics, project planning and management, and research. So today, we are going to talk about management by project as the cost-effective management approach. The reason behind the topic is that this COVID-19 pandemic has taught us, has challenged us to think beyond the box. And therefore, we are much more interested in how to manage resources that are available in a cost-effective way. So, by the close of today's session, we will have appreciated the management by project approach as a tool that is very important in helping us manage ourselves in view of tasks, in view of projects, even those that are in offices doing management work in organizations. How best can we apply management by project approach in order to save the costs? We will begin by understanding some of the terminologies, and I'm not going to be very technical. I am going to try to be as layman as possible so that all of us out there, both the technical and the non-technical, can get a better understanding of this tool called management by project. Before we understand what that tool means or how it helps us, we need to have an understanding of the key terms. And therefore, we are going to define management, we are going to define a project, we are going to define project management, then later we'll have a better understanding of management by project. What is management? Simply put, management is the process of achieving planned objectives, intended objectives, by use of resources. And majorly, we have three types of resources. We have the people, which we call human resources. We have money, which is the financial resources. Then we have materials. These are resources that we always have. And when we put these resources together with an intended objective to be achieved, then we can term that as management. Management goes through a number of processes in a sort of a chronological order. That is planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Planning. Planning, means having an idea and looking into how to put it into to implement it, to put it into action, so that at the end you achieve what you have intended to achieve. Organizing, yes, you put resources together. Directing, you give direction. You give, the route to take in order to achieve what you intend to achieve. Then control, you make sure that you are within the stated, parameters. A project, what is a project? So many definitions, according to different scholars. But in a simple understanding, a project is an endeavor, an undertaking, carried out to achieve an intended outcome, a desired outcome. It can be a product or it can be a service. We will later see types of projects. So just keep set. But why? How do we achieve this? In a cost-effective way. So we look at achieving a desired outcome within the set costs, within the scheduled time, and within the quality desired. Project management. Project management simply means, let me go a little bit to explain what a project is. Project management. Project management simply means application of skills, umanyivu, knowledge, and tools and techniques to project activities with an intended objective. We have to mark that, in a cost-effective fashion. Cost-effective, meaning no resources wasted. You remember the three resources: human resources, which is people; financial resources, which is money; and then material resources. Material resources, for instance, an example would be, a panga to use. That's a material resource. Cement, it's a material resource. This desk is a material resource. Depending on how, whichever project you are looking at, those resources can be put to good use. And that arrangement of putting them to good use is what we call project management. Management by project, therefore, in brief, it means the administration of ongoing or routine tasks or operations as if they were small projects. The technical language, these small projects are usually called sub-projects. So if in a cost-effective way, we look at what we intend to do, and we calculate very well these resources, we put them to optimal use without any wastage, or reducing the wastages as much as possible, is what is literally referred to as management by project. Let me give you a brief background about management by project. How did it come about, now that we have understood what it is? It is drawn from the broad field of general management. General management is characterized by operations. What are operations? Routine tasks, designed to achieve a set objective. But project managers realized that there was a problem with the general management, because resources were not being put to good use. And for that matter, they came up with this new design, this new approach called, management by project. In other words, you look at all the tasks to accomplish a specific project, and you plan, you execute in a cost-effective manner so that you save resources, you don't waste resources. And with that background, and basing on the prevailing circumstances, the lessons we've thus far learned from this coronavirus pandemic, the big question now is how best can we consolidate the few resources we have and put them to good use. The process of putting them to good use must be a cost-effective process. And therefore, we are going to manage operations, day-to-day operations. We are going to manage day-to-day tasks in or the project, the management by project perspective. So, in the few minutes to come, we will look at the project management process. How do you manage a project? Remember, a project is an endeavor, an undertaking that will help us achieve a desired objective. Let me give an example here, citing some of the projects that I have listed. Take an example of establishing a home vegetable garden. That is our project. How do you do it? What processes does it undergo? Okay. Take an example. Opening a community access road. Which processes does such a project go through? And therefore, we are going to have a short break. Then after the break, when we come back, we'll look at this process in detail. Thank you so much. Welcome back from the break. We are going to look at the project management process. And the process actually, which is a generic process, consists of 4 major processes. That is initiation, planning, execution, then closure. You know, these are a little bit technical, but we'll try to understand them. What is initiation? Initiation, it means having an idea. You conceptualize something you want to do. You have a mental mapping. Take an example. You want to establish a home vegetable garden. You know, that's an idea. I want it. And therefore, it takes you to the next step. And that is planning. During planning, you're looking at what do I need? What resources do I need? Okay. Remember the resources: financial, which is money. You need the people, and you need the materials. So, my garden. What do I need? I need the money to buy the seedlings, for instance, or the seeds. I need human resources or a person to work on it, on the garden. You can choose to be your family. Materials, I need a panga, I need a hoe. You know, that is the resources that you want. You put them on a sheet. And therefore, you are ready now to do business. Execution. Execution means now you are putting your plan into reality. Your plan, you have your resources, now you get your hands dirty. Get the hoe, get the panga, get the seeds, and then you do the planting. Around there, we have monitoring and controlling. Monitoring means you have a keen eye on what is happening. Are the seeds germinating? Am I watering them well? I'm simply giving an example. Are they growing? Have I fertilized the garden very well? Then the garden is now giving you vegetables. You are eating. You harvest, you eat. You harvest, you eat. And therefore, you come to the close of the project when it comes to that. You are harvesting, the project is ongoing, and at the end, perhaps after a certain period of time, yes, your objective was to have vegetables on your meal daily. You have achieved it. But this vegetable garden is not going to last for years. It will come to an end, perhaps when you will need to engage into another project. So that is the project management process. And with that, this takes us to the key attributes of a project, or characteristics, the features of a project. Basing on that example, and looking at the process itself, we've realized that a project is temporary. It will not stay for a long time. It has a beginning and an end. You begin, you walk the journey, you come to the end. It goes through a life cycle. We've seen it. You conceive an idea of what you want to do. That is initiation. You put resources together, planning. You put your plan into action, execution. Then you close, you come to the end. You close the project when you feel it has achieved your set objectives. The good thing with the projects, another attribute, is the progressive elaboration of specifications. Every detail is taken care of. So you are sure of what you're doing, which is different from this general management. Project management demands that you elaborate everything. Every step is elaborated so that you don't miss out. Remember, we are looking at costs. We are looking at time. We are looking at quality. And that keeps you in check. So that requires elaboration of the specific steps you need to take. Then it has end objectives. There is something you are targeting, something you are looking forward to. Let's look at some examples, more examples. There are so many examples. In fact, one of other features of a project is that projects are complex. You may not, you may, even the definition, you may not clearly articulate what a project is. A project can be, as long as it has those features that we've seen above, then it is a project. And most important, it has a desired objective. Okay, so anything that has got those characteristics can be referred to as a project, as we've seen. Look at these examples. Getting married, it can be your project. You say, come 2021, before the year ends, and specifically from the month of September to December, I will prepare for my wedding. That becomes a project. So your beginning date is, say, 15th of September. That's when you will start, calling on friends, relatives, telling them, hey, look, before the year ends, and specifically on the 30th of December, 2020, that will be my wedding day. So you start planning. You go through the other process. You conceive an idea. Time has gone. I need to marry. Or I need to get married. I don't know. I need to marry. All right. So in your planning, have you identified a partner? Yes. Have you proposed it? Yes. Oh, so is he or she in agreement? Fine. And therefore now you call on meetings, you prepare, then the execution of that process is that wedding day. Everything is being put to work as you planned. And perhaps during your honeymoon, as you conclude your honeymoon, then the project is getting to close. As simple as that. That is, one of the examples of how you can manage such a project. Say, community access road. You are the chairperson LC1. You notice that your village has no access road to the main road. You wake up one day, you say, members, I have an idea. We are living in a bush. We are not connected to the external world. Why? Because we don't have an access road. That's the idea. You are the brain behind that project. You initiate that project. Your village mates welcome the idea. You sit together. What do we need? That's the resources. We need somebody who knows how a project how the road can be managed, or how this project can be put to reality. So perhaps you will need somebody technical in that area. That is part of human resources. But you also need those that are not technical. What resources do I need? We need hoes, we need pangas, we need spades, we need food, we need those resources. Now the actual implementation, what we call the execution, putting to work, you get the tools and you do the work. Okay? Then later, when the work is done, then you can say, hey, this project has been perfectly done, and therefore we close it. We close the project. The time frame, we are looking at the cost in terms of money, we are looking at time, we are looking at the quality. So, you may plan to have this access road opened in a matter of days, maybe 2 days or 5 days or 1 month, for instance. You had planned for all the resources. You make sure that you do not deviate from those resources. Otherwise, if you go beyond what you planned, then you incur those costs, and perhaps there is no extra source to get the required resources. That can be another example of a project. Maybe the final example, inventing a fast testing kit for COVID-19. The scientists will find it now. This is purely for the scientists, those who have done those studies. Today, so many laboratories across the world are busy engaging scientists to invent these tools that help in combating this virus, vaccine and others. So the project is ongoing. When the vaccine is eventually got, then we can say the project has come to the closure. Yes, we are going to have a short break, and when we return, we will try to understand the considerations, the requirements. What do we need to execute, to implement a project? What do we need to do? And we will base on the already identified examples and try to weigh in how have these projects been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. What should we do? What should we have done so that we keep afloat? Okay, so let's have a break, and then when we return, we'll look at that. All right, let's continue. We are going to look at vital considerations when it comes to choosing a project and implementing it and finally achieving your set objectives. One, and most important, you must have some knowledge and skills about that very project. Say, a home vegetable garden. You must have some skills on how to go about it. Very important. Secondly, you must have a fair knowledge or understanding of the environment that surrounds your project. We have two types of environments. We have the external environment, then we have the internal environment. The internal environment, which normally is called the organizational environment, is usually friendly. You can have control over that. The external environment, you do not have control over that. The environment, by definition, these are factors that can affect your project in any way. Take an example during this COVID-19 era. You are looking at this example that we looked at previously, opening a community access road. What is the internal environment? What is the external environment of that project? The external environment would be, for instance, the socio-economic circumstances within the country. And for this case, COVID-19 perhaps would not allow that project to take place with all the restrictions that are there. We'll look at that later. The internal environment, you have, with this environment, you have control over it. Let me give an example. If you are a tenant and your landlord has got small land nearby your residence where you want to plant your vegetables. Then you can influence your landlord in a way. Talk to them, ask them. If they allow, then that means you have control over that environment. And this we've seen it happen, especially during this time. At home, for instance, I have a vegetable garden. That's why I brought it as an example. As soon as this lockdown was announced, I talked to my landlady. There was a piece of land, and as I speak today, my family is enjoying vegetables. The external environment of social, of COVID-19 bringing about these restrictions of social distancing, the curfew and whatnot, could not affect that project. And who are the stakeholders? Let's come to number 3. I and my family are the stakeholders, but also the landlady is a stakeholder. So how you manage stakeholders? Stakeholders, in other words, these are institutions that have got a bearing on the success of your project, or for that matter, the failure of your project. So in this case, my landlady is a stakeholder, my children are a stakeholder, my wife is a stakeholder. Okay? So very, very important to know your stakeholders. And the most critical stakeholder here for the success of this project was the landlady. Because she accepted, then the project took place. Customers. Customers are very, very important. Any project, as you conceptualize, you think through the project that you want to implement, make sure you are concerned about the customers, the clients, those final end users of your products or services. Take an example. If my vegetable garden, my objective for the garden was to have vegetables for my family, but also extra for sale to the nearby neighbors. That means the neighbors to whom I sell the vegetables are the clients or are the customers. And the way I deal with them matters so much for the success of my project. They buy and give me money, which money I can put to good use. So any project must have those vital considerations. Take an example. A Muslim-dominated community, say in Kawempe, and you want to bring about projects that can benefit the poor people that stay in that community. And you say, hey, I am going to implement bigger projects in this community. Trust me, the chances of success are very minimal. Why? Because this is, bigger project is a taboo to the Muslim community. So, or if you want to have, project, you want to do the business of pork, you must look at the environment. Does the external environment allow? Okay. So you cannot take such a business in a Muslim-dominated community. So that's why you must think critically before you engage into a project. Otherwise, you can make losses. Finally, I posed some questions that we can discuss together. And once we are done, then perhaps by the end, we will have gotten some, tips on how we can go through these remaining days of COVID-19. Based on your knowledge of management by project approach to management generally, we have the knowledge now. 3 questions. The first one is, how cost effective can you attend to daily home chores? Remember I said projects, management by project is concerned with how best we can accomplish tasks or daily routine, projects or operations in a cost-effective manner. Looking at time, looking at money, and looking at quality. So, take an example. On a daily basis, every family must eat. So, meaning, basically you prepare, on the average I think as a per Ugandan standard is 3 meals. Breakfast, lunch, supper. Food preparation, it requires a number of resources. What are those resources? Human resources, material resources, and financial resources. You buy food, okay? You need people to prepare this food. So you buy resources to use, materials, charcoal or gas or whatever. Now, look at this. Instead of cooking those 3 meals independently, you can prepare those meals at once. You say we are going to prepare breakfast using the same resources. People, money, charcoal, gas. You prepare a huge meal. You cut for breakfast, you save for lunch, you save for supper. In so doing, you have saved perhaps the resources to use by a third. That's what we call management by project. Number, perhaps let's look at, yes, how has COVID-19 affected the project listed? Number, slide 6. How has it affected opening a community access road? Remember, the restriction is social distancing, masks, whatever. All those restrictions could not allow a certain community anywhere in the world to implement such a project. Why? Because it requires people to be closer. It requires people to be together. And for that matter, such a project can come to a halt until this pandemic is gone. But establishing, for instance, a home vegetable project, this is very possible, as I had said before. And so, what lessons do we learn from the 2 scenarios above that can make us better self-project and organization managers in the post-COVID-19 era? Simply put, management by project has taught us that we can use the available limited resources, the few monies we still have, the people that are within our reach, that means immediate families especially, and the materials that are available in a cost-effective way. If we mind of the cost, if we mind of the time spent, and mind of the quality that we expect, to make sure that we don't miss out on these three major aspects, and at the end achieve our desired objectives, then we can say having the knowledge of management by project has taught us to be better self-project and organizational managers. So I thank you for listening. Thank you.